Senator, what's your view on whether a strike potentially in Iran would be a necessary thing if President Trump greenlights that?
I'm deeply concerned about United States personnel in the region, and the Secretary's testimony today gives me no assurance that we have adequate protections for both our troops, our diplomats, and our civilians in the area in case of the use of wider force. I hope that diplomacy is still possible and negotiations can still be used to avoid a wider regional war, which I think threatens our security. But clearly, a nuclear-armed Iran is a threat to the entire world, including the United States, as well as Israel. I support Israel's right of self-defense against this existential menace. I support the United States providing the means for Israel to defend itself against Iranian retaliation.
Should Congress have a say in whether the United States gets involved in this conflict? Should Congress be consulted?
Congress eventually must have a say in the event of a wider war. At some point, the president must come to Congress if there is to be active, kinetic military involvement that constitutes war. That's the Constitution. And I believe that the president has to face accountability at some point under the Constitution for the use of military force in combat, in a war. And the question is when that point is.
What is that point for you, though? Like, would that be American pilots flying these stealth bomber planes and helping Israel
at this
take
point,
out
I'm not
some
going
of
to
those
speculate, but I think at some point, if American military force is used, there has to be accountability under the Constitution. The use of war powers requires that the consent of Congress be obtained.
Senator, you said you have concerns about repercussions for American troops and American presence in the region. Are we to take that to mean you believe that they're inadequately prepared for Iranian retaliation?
So far, the administration has failed to assure me that we have adequate defense against the missiles and the swarms of drones that could come against our troops, our diplomats, our civilians in the region. And I want to hear more specificity from the administration about what those plans are. I think the American public deserves to know that we will be protected in the region, that our civilians, our military, and visitors and residents in that area will be protected in the event of a wider conflict. I believe that the United States and Israel have aligned interests in preventing a nuclear-armed Iran, and I support the right of Israel to defend itself against this existential menace and the alignment of our interests with Israel.
On the prospect of a potential strike in Iran, are you satisfied so far with the
We don't need to escalate in Iran. That doesn't make anyone in the Middle East safer, and it certainly doesn't make the United States any safer. Right now, the role of the United States should be to help de-escalate, to push for negotiations, not to try to set more things afire.
Senator, the president was asked at the White House just a few minutes ago about what he's going to do, and he said, I'm not going to broadcast this to you guys. I may do it, I may not. Do you have confidence in him as a commander-in-chief right now?
I remind the President of the United States that it is the United States Congress and only the United States Congress that can declare war. The President does not have constitutional authority to do that.
What is that line for you, though? Does that include any U.S. military aircraft going into
the American people did not vote last November to be dragged into one more endless war in the Middle East. That's not what the American people want, and the Constitution reserves the right to make that decision with Congress, not with the President.
Some members of the administration have argued that a single strike would not constitute an act of war.
I'm sure they do. Look, we need to de-escalate. The point is not to get the president to see if he can push everything to the edge so that Congress's options are taken away. The point is the president, acting on behalf of the United States, should be working to de-escalate, not to make things even worse and to get the United States entangled another endless war in the Middle East.
How concerned are you that the administration may move ahead without?
I'm really concerned. I mean, we've got there's a lot of boxes that would need to be checked, right? And we're at this point where the Iranians have been destabilized significantly by the Israeli Air Force. The Israelis have air superiority. For us to get involved in this conflict, it is it would be a tremendous step in a different direction. We're trying to avoid conflict with other nations. Iran cannot develop a nuclear weapon. That capability, the enriched uranium that they have, probably still exists there today. They haven't been able to hit the underground facilities yet, as far as I know, successfully. But before we would take a step to participate in any way, I think this administration has to have a serious conversation, not only internally, but with the American people, about, and it would need to involve, our allies and planning. And are we trying to remove nuclear material from the country? Are we just trying to degrade the capability? Are we trying to get regime change? I mean, these are questions that need to be answered. It's unclear from the discussion in the hearing room whether they've even had this discussion. I hope when we're downstairs in a closed session, we get some of these answers.
Do you believe the president is being too flippant about this? I mean, earlier today,
of course he is. He always is. Yeah, of course he is. I mean, we knew that from the first Trump presidency. He's not serious. And that's troubling, and I think ultimately it can put us at greater risk.
Are American assets in the region prepared for potential Iranian retaliation?
Well, I think we are generally prepared to the extent we can be prepared. I'm not that concerned about Iranian fighters. That's been degraded. They didn't have much of a fighter force to begin with. They do still have a lot of medium-range ballistic missiles that could hit our bases in the region. There's about 40,000 U.S. troops in range of those missile systems. So yeah, it's very concerning.
Do you trust the Israeli intelligence that they're on the doorstep of a nuclear bomb? I mean, it seems as though that the Iranians are on the door. I mean, that threat's been out there for more than a decade.
It has been, and it's when the JCPOA was implemented, the level of enrichment went down significantly. They were complying with that plan. Remember, Donald Trump killed that, killed the JCPOA, so killed the Iran deal. Their enrichment went up. I mean, I get briefed on it practically every week. I see where they are. They're close, incredibly close. It's hard to know, like, the last final steps, like how are they within weeks or maybe a couple months to break out where they have enough material to build a nuclear weapon. But I will agree with the Israeli assessment that they were very close.
What's going on with Israel and Iran? And what do you think about this resolution from Senator Kaine that would require permission from Congress for President Trump to strike Iran?
No, my views haven't changed. I really think it's absolutely appropriate to use our capabilities to destroy the nuclear facilities in Iran. This is not a battery barn kind of a thing. It's not like a break it, you buy it thing. It's like destroy those facilities, and that's where our involvement is limited to. I don't know why we can't support those things. And also, I'd like to point out, like the polling has shown that I think it's about effectively 80% of Americans thinks that Iran should never acquire a nuclear weapon. So, like, this isn't shocking. It's like, this is not warmongering. This is peacemongering. It's like, like Iran can't ever allow a nuclear facility and a bomb. So this is where we're at. I mean, that's not controversial. It definitely should be controversial for Democrats.
Senator, to be clear, if the U.S. were to conduct a preemptive strike, you would not view that as an act of war. Congress would not need to take a vote.
It's not preemptive. It's like clearly they're trying to build a bomb. We can't ever allow that. We have an opportunity to take it out. We should all do that. We have the capabilities to do that.